Level 989.
Welcome to 989 on Health, where you don't need years of university to understand the latest news about health and related subjects. We've created a list of helpful links on today's topic at our website, level989.com. You can also find those links in the podcast playing app you're using right now.
This informal discussion shares our personal views. Don't rely on this podcast as an alternative to medical advice from a professional healthcare provider. For the full disclaimer, please see our website.
I'm Mike Davalos, just an average Joe, and the fine gentleman here with me is anything but average. It's Brandon Weintraub, a primary care physician. Hello, good sir.
And hello, Mike.
This episode's more of an off-the-cuff discussion. We have not spent the hours and hours of research that most of our episodes require. There's an interesting article over at the Public Library of Science. There are substances called perfluoroalkyl substances and changes in body weight and resting metabolic rate in response to weight loss diets. And it's a study of these substances.
Indeed it is, and this particular article is very interesting because I, for one, grew up with a mother telling me we had to be careful not to ingest any of the non-stick coating off of some of the pans she used, and was never able to explain why you weren't supposed to, but just that it was bad for you. And so this particular study is kind of related. So I'll read a quote here from the study itself. The potential endocrine disrupting effects of perfluoroalkyl substances, and we're going to call those PFAs from now on, have been demonstrated in animal studies, but whether PFAs may interfere with body weight regulation in humans is largely unknown. This study aimed to examine the association of PFAs exposure with changes in body weight and resting metabolic rate in a diet-induced weight loss setting. Conclusion. In this diet-induced weight loss trial, higher baseline plasma PFAs concentrations were associated with greater weight regain, especially in women, possibly explained by a slower regression of resting metabolic rate levels. These data illustrate a potential novel pathway through which PFAs may interfere with the human body weight regulation and metabolism. The possible impact of environmental chemicals on the obesity epidemic therefore deserves attention.
Wow. You can tell that these are smarty pants people writing for smarty pants people.
Oh yes, this one is definitely not an article written to help the average public person understand exactly what's going on. This is a study.
This isn't Time Magazine here. This is doctors talking to doctors.
So then what our job is to simplify this out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's go ahead and do that. Essentially, the study was about how these PFAs, which are found in a number of different places. I think you sent me a little article from...
I think it was the EPA.
The EPA, that's right, yeah. That discussed a little bit about where they came from, and it could come from... There was a whole list that isn't loading for me now.
I've got it on screen. I can go through it. So it says that people can be exposed to low levels of PFAs through food, which can become contaminated through contaminated soil and water used to grow the food. It can come from food packaging or from the equipment that's used to process the food.
So pretty much from almost anywhere at this point.
Any stage in the food process, yeah.
Yeah. So when I saw this article, it was actually in relation to the non-stick coating that's on non-stick pans.
Are we talking Teflon or a different non-stick coating?
I don't want to tell you for certain. I don't think we're talking about Teflon. I think we're talking about the old nonstick coatings that were on the pans. Like I said, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, but worth looking into, actually,
to
see if Teflon's included. But the point was that this study was looking at a group of people, and they were actively attempting to lose weight. They took various readings at 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months to find out how much weight these people had lost. Also kept an eye on some of the other various metabolic parameters, so glucose levels, lipid levels, that sort of thing. And what they found was that at the 6-month period, these people had actively been losing weight for 6 months. The PFAs didn't seem to have much of an effect. As they increased the time interval, so at the 12 months, the 18 months, and the 24 months, it turned out that the higher the concentration of PFAs, the more likely the people were to retain weight. But they saw a much more significant result when the people were done exercising and losing weight. So during that period that people will put the weight back on, so they've been working really hard, they've lost 20 pounds, and you've usually got that rebound period for about 6 months afterwards. where all of a sudden half that weight will come back. Turns out that higher levels of PFAs were associated with people gaining back more weight than the groups that had the lower levels of PFAs. Particularly women were affected by this.
It's hard enough to lose weight and keep it off without some chemical that's in your food, making it even harder. But looking at this EPA site, I'm also seeing that you can get this through clothing, paper, as well as packaging materials. Now, one thing that's not clear, they talk about it being in your drinking water as well, the water from your tap that you get from the city.
Yeah.
And it's not clear if the packaging used is also in plastic drinking bottles. But, it wouldn't blow my mind if it was. If it's a food-safe, plasticky material, then I'm sure it's used widely.
I entirely agree. I'm willing to bet that you're probably right. I wouldn't be at all surprised if it was in the bottles themselves. I do know that somewhere it was mentioning that even like sealants used for floors had a certain amount of PFAs that you may be getting. It's just awful. It's everywhere.
Yeah, it's in carpet. I mean, it kind of makes me think of flame retardant stuff that's also in all of our cloth and curtains and upholstery for couches. And that's not the same thing, but it's like there's chemicals in everything you touch.
Yeah, I'm willing to bet that anything that is stain resistant has a certain amount of this PFA stuff in it. Wouldn't surprise me at all. And I'm just looking now really quickly to see if Teflon is included, and it looks like it is. It looks like Teflon does have a certain concentration of the PFAs.
Oh, good to know.
Yes.
Well, I've still used Teflon now. I know they were trying to phase Teflon out over the past few years.
Still using it.
You'd think that if they've decided it's bad, as of January 1st, 2018, no more Teflon pans can be sold. But they're not doing that.
Yeah, that's not happening. So how did this work? How did the PFAs actually interfere with weight loss?
The mechanism of action?
Yeah, and it looks like it's all about its ability to disrupt the endocrine system. The endocrine system is basically all of those organs that adjust the chemicals in your body. So
the hormones, right?
Yeah, basically dealing with your hormones, which honestly means everything in your body. Signals are sent and received by hormone. So what essentially happens, it seems, is these PFAs start to interfere with your resting metabolism rate. So the amount of energy your body actually burns off when you're not exercising, you're not doing anything, just existing. And by interfering with the amount of calories you burn at rest, it causes you to increase your weight and to lose less weight when you're actually on a day-to-day basis.
Do we have any idea, like there's some substances you take in your body that your body can never pass? Like mercury might be one of those. I'm not sure. So, okay, I've got some PFAs in my body. How do I get them out?
It seems like it's something that your body will actually process and eliminate on its own.
Breaks down over time if I'm not adding.
Exactly. It's all just about keeping the amounts that you're imbibing on a regular basis as minimal as possible.
I can cut back on the food that comes in packaging. I guess eat more fresh fruits and vegetables, which is a good idea anyway, but...
Switch to the regular stick pans.
What if it's in my drinking water from the city?
Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of option there. If you're most citizenry, you don't have your own private lake that you can draw water from. You're drawing from the public water system.
How could you filter it? How could you process it? We could talk about lead. We could talk about a lot of other things.
But how easy are these PFAs to filter for, and is it being done?
Yeah.
And my gut instinct says that the filtration that some of the bigger public systems go through, it's actually pretty significant. So the fact that we're still worried about it, even with that process in place, I would be willing to bet that it's pretty difficult to get these PFAs out of the water system once they're there.
And it's also, there's always a lag. You discover a problem, and then you debate about it, and there's committees, and then laws are passed, and they have 10 years to update their water system, and they missed the date, and now it's 15 years, and this stuff is still in your water, so...
I'm reading a little bit further down in the study here, and it mentions a recent study reported that the drinking water supplies for at least 6 million U.S. citizens may exceed the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's health advisory limit for lifetime exposure to PFOS and PFOA from drinking water. So, wonderful. At least 6 million are already exposed on a regular basis to a limit that is outside the lifetime exposure limitations from the EPA. So, what do? The best you can. Avoid clothing and cloth that has a stain-free, water-free coating. switch to nonstick cookware. It's unfortunate. I guess the end result of this study is to just prove how important even a manufacturing practice can be on something like weight loss, which is a big deal in our country right now as the obesity epidemic increases regularly.
Yeah, I went to the doctor a few months ago, and the only thing that she talked to me about was my weight. Everything else is good. All my numbers are good. She wants me to lose weight. That's the number one thing. And it could be worse. Oh, we've got some kidney problems, or, oh, we've got some, it's like, no, just lose some weight. You're great, But, oh, all the food I eat and all the water I drink and everything I'm taking in is poisoning me, so...
Welcome to a majority of America.
Now, we've talked off recording about how we want these topics to be actionable. When people listen, they can do something or not do something.
Actionable, something I can do to help myself be better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I said, avoid all those nonstick pans. They're really easy to clean and very nice, but if there is the potential for them to have these PFAs, at least you're reducing the amount that you'd be intaking. Make sure you know when you're buying clothes what the process is. And like I said, for the most part, it seems like it's the clothing that has that non-stain, non-stick to it. And I know that a number of my pants actually do have that now that I think about it. But avoiding that sort of thing, and if at all possible, just pay attention to any reports or information you have available to you about your local water supplies and that sort of thing. Make sure you know what you're drinking. And unfortunately, there may not be a whole lot of choice, but it might be worth looking into see if filtration works against these PFAs, if there's anything you can do. And I don't know off the top of my head, but I think it's definitely worth us coming back at a later time and
that's fine. We can do that.
Letting our listeners know.
I have to wonder when it comes to clothing. Like, some people are constantly buying new stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of my clothes are old.
Yeah.
I've had this t-shirt for 5 years. It's like, how long has it taken for that coating to just wash away in the washing machine after a few hundred washes,
Again, these are all very good questions that we probably should have researched a little better.
Just that one question. Well, t-shirts are made of 50 different things depending on the t-shirt you buy and the concentrations and what you're washing it in and what kind of, do you have hard water or soft water? And there's no end to the studies that can be done on anything you could conceive of.
Very true.
I didn't expect you to whip out an answer right then, but...
I want to be able to do that.
That's all the time we have for today. These short episodes are a brief overview of very complex topics. Everything we say is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Licensed healthcare professionals should advise you and be aware of changes you're planning to make to any aspect of your healthcare. Every person's needs are different. The links to references we've made about news articles, medical studies, or other materials can be found at level989.com, along with our contact information and the complete Don't Take Medical Advice from Podcasts disclaimer. Don't forget to take a moment to rate or review us in iTunes or give us a mention on social media. We can't inform everyone if they don't know we exist. Thanks for listening, and now go help yourself.